Lockdown restrictions were eased further from June 1st, and Australia cautiously emerges from the COVID-19 lockdown. And churches right across Australia are emerging from lockdown too. For us, it's been a long 3 and a bit months. We began with a lot of change, and we are bracing yet again for another period of change. And those changes and the emotions and the feelings that come along with them will take time to process and reflect upon for many more months to come. Some of us are really excited at the prospect of meeting face to face again, while others are a bit unsure. Some of us have lost work or have really struggled to find work, while others have really enjoyed working from home or have otherwise appreciated the time to stop and rest. Some of us have really enjoyed the time of isolation, either by themselves or with their families, while others have been anxious, alone and lonely. Anxious perhaps that they might not even have a home to live in. Some of us have used the time to explore hobbies and grow in their knowledge, while others have stumbled in some personal vices. Some less serious, Netflix, second breakfasts, midnight snacks, while others are more serious, pornography, alcohol, and otherwise just withdrawing from other people into themselves. All this great range of feelings and emotions and more, there is a lot to process here, isn't there? From an individual and from a family level. And I suspect that most of us have gone through some really complicated mix of all the different kinds of things I've just described. Simply put, as individuals and as families, there are many lessons for us to learn from this lockdown about God, about ourselves, about our world, about each other. And I'm really looking forward to hearing from you about those learnings in the weeks and months to come. Now, as we zoom out just a little bit and think about ESCCC, as a church, we've gone through some big changes too. And these changes will also take time to reflect and to process. As a church, we've learned a lot. I think we've especially grown in appreciating the value of face-to-face meetings. Now, many of us have suffered bouts of isolation and loneliness at times. Many of our ministries involved sharing a meal together, which became impractical once we went digital. Many of us faced up to the anxiety and the frustration of having to learn new software and use new devices. Some of us were subjected to being recorded on video for Sunday services. Not the easiest thing to do. We've also learned that FaceTime is expensive time, so we ought not to waste it. And perhaps in the past, we did waste some of that precious time. We need to be deliberate about the time that we have together. We don't always need to meet face to face for its own sake. So, for example, if our Sunday services were all about consuming content and receiving information, then it would be sensible for all of us just to stay home and consume that content at our own convenience. Sleep in, stay home, don't worry about the kids, play everything at double speed, get over it and done with, easy. But Sunday services are an opportunity for all of us to participate. And I'm the firm opinion that worship services should be as active as possible for everyone involved as we offer up to God our sacrifice of praise and thanksgiving. It means, for example, singing with conviction and joy, praying attentively with affirmation of what's being said, listening actively with Bibles open and even taking notes. God is pleased when we do these kinds of things together, and others around us are strengthened when we participate together. We cannot participate together if we're just watching by ourselves after the fact. We can participate somewhat if we watch together like we've been doing, and we can participate more when we have a live stream that lets us see each other's faces like we do at our digital morning teas and Holy Communion. But nothing can replace the sense of participation that comes with meeting physically face to face. And we know that when we went into lockdown, some of our fellowship found themselves on the outside, either unable or unwilling to make the transition over to digital meetings. So we want to open up our building to as many people as possible, as soon as possible. Keep an eye on our Telegram and WhatsApp and website as more updates come out about this. Now, being compelled to do things online and digitally has opened up a whole range of new opportunities too. There are certain ministries, for example, which are more focused on receiving information and consuming content. And for these kinds of ministries, a digital meeting might end up being more effective. So, for example, our seminar on the Satan and spiritual warfare. It was really well attended despite being hosted on a weeknight out of the church basement in a lockdown. But because it was online, we still had about 36 people join in what was a really lively discussion. Now, being pushed to do ministry online has also increased the potential of our gospel reach. It's meant that our ministry, our preaching, and our teaching has been able to help people connect and reconnect with our church from places like Singapore, Indonesia, Malaysia, China, the UK, and the US. And I'm personally really excited about the opportunity for gospel proclamation that has opened up for churches all over the world, as so many congregations have had to learn how to share the gospel online. So perhaps we can view this as our once-in-a-generation opportunity, increasing our gospel witness by an order of magnitude by taking the proclamation of the gospel online. Perhaps these days will be like the days of the Reformation, when Christians took advantage of the printing press to get the gospel message out far and wide. And for us, who are standing in the tradition of the Reformers, it follows that we do likewise and take every advantage that technology gives us to spread the word and bring many souls to repentance and faith. So I think it would be a shame if all the hard-earned lessons that we've learned over the course of this lockdown were set aside, and once we returned to physical worship, the life and the conduct of our church and our meetings simply just went back to the way things were. Our gospel witness and our ministry ought to take a different form from now on as a result of this lockdown, and hopefully for the greater magnification of God's name. But it would also be a shame if in the midst of all this change, some of our flock were left behind because we didn't take the time to take stock, look around, and ensure that we shepherded all of God's people that He's given into our care patiently and gently into this new normal. Somehow we need to hold both of these tensions together and perform our duty, from elders and pastors to the heads of households, community group leaders, and those firmly established in the faith. It's not an easy job. Coming out of lockdown will be harder than it was going into lockdown, and we all need to be praying for one another that God might give us abundant wisdom to know what to do and how to do it, so that we all increase in the courage of our witness and to make sure that we leave no one behind. My name is Pastor Jose. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.